Today, the Washington Post has new reporting on the criminal case involving President Biden's son, Hunter. The headline is that federal agents see chargeable tax gun purchase case against him. The report says that federal agents investigating Hunter gather what they believe is sufficient evidence to charge him with tax crimes and a false statement for a gun purchase, according to people familiar with the case. The story would appear significant because it involves an open investigation of the president's son. Now, the Post cites, quote, people familiar with the case. Presumably there are more than one source that the Post finds credible on this issue. Now, this is a decision that will be up to the Justice Department, and yet the story, it's important to note, seems to draw on what sound like what federal agents believe. And there have been other cases where we've seen agents providing information that somehow gets out to the public about what they believe should happen. Of course, you have to remember, when you look at DOJ cases, it is prosecutors, not the line agents, who decide whether or not there's a case. Also, we want to bring you the response to this big story from Hunter Biden's lawyer, who notes it's a federal felony for an agent to leak information about this investigation. Any agent the Post cites as a source in the article apparently has committed such a felony, says the Biden lawyer. NBC News has reached out to the Justice Department for comment. We have not heard anything, and as you know from following these types of stories, it is rare to hear ongoing comments from the Justice Department about an open case. While there has been much discussion of where this case would head, this Washington Post story does seem to suggest that some people involved in the case have this view on the investigative side. What the Justice Department is going to do, well, there haven't been many leaks about that yet. I want to bring in a former SDNY chief, David Kelly. Also, I should mention my former boss, who has overseen many such federal criminal investigations. Welcome back, David.
Good to be here. Thanks.
When you look at the article and its unnamed sourcing, what do you think it says, if anything, about the state of the case potentially against Hunter Biden?
Well, look, it's one thing to have on paper that a crime was committed. It's yet a whole different decision-making process that a prosecutor has to undertake to determine whether or not it's prudently charged. And it may well be that there's a leak from the agents, if this is how it has played out, because they feel some frustration that the prosecutors aren't going forward. It may not be that at all. It may just be they're getting a little bit out ahead of themselves, getting out ahead of their skis. And so the prosecutors, if it's true, the prosecutor is going to have to make a decision. Is this a case we want to charge? Now, I guess on the kind of a good news, bad news, on the good news side of the story, if you're Hunter Biden, you're probably thinking, well, look, it's a tax case and a false statement case, which is not nearly as bad as this has been pumped up to be over the last few years as an influence peddling, public corruption type case. But nonetheless, it's still, the good news is not so good. It's still bad because they're talking about a tax charge. But in this case, there's a lot of factors that a prosecutor is going to have to consider. One, he apparently reportedly paid his taxes. Whatever taxes were due and owing, he paid. Two, he's kind of a pathetic, pathetic may be a strong word, but he's has some, issues personally, which lean in favor of maybe doing something, charging something less. And it's not just what he's charged with, but the prosecutor also has to decide, well, how are we going to resolve it? What type of plea offer will we give him? And these factors, such as the fact that he has been a drug addict, that would be actually the basis of the false statement on the gun permit, the gun license application, would be reasons to maybe give him a more lenient type plea offer.
When you've overseen these kind of grand jury investigations, most of which we never hear about if they're closed, and we don't hear a lot during them, so the high-profile ones tend to have more information, and yet it can actually lead people to be under the misperception that there's constantly talk. It's a pretty quiet process most of the time. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you have overseen cases where there are leaks, what do you do about that as a prosecutor? Do they wake up and look at the Post story and go, oh, no big deal? Or do they say, if agents are leaking while we're trying to do this work and we haven't even reached a preliminary decision, that's a problem?
It's a problem, but there's not much you can do about it. It happens. And typically, lots of times when there's a leak investigation, the person leaking is out on the periphery, and the people in the heart of it know more, have more accurate information. So while this may sound very credible, it may not be exactly what the story is, depending on who's leaking this. It may have been somebody, as I say, who doesn't really have the most recent current information.
Yeah, I got about 30 seconds left. Given what we do know, which is limited, what would you expect the timeline to be for this U.S. attorney, who holds the same type of job you used to hold, to make a decision?
Hard to say, Ari. My guess is he probably would try to avoid doing it to make it, before the midterms, just to make sure it's not any sort of political issue. So he may hold on to this for another 6-8 weeks if they are as close as the leak would suggest they are. I think it also would be pending discussion, not just about charging, but resolving. So I think that when this is formally announced, it's not just that we're charging this guy, but we're charging him and we're resolving it in the following way.
Very interesting. Former U.S. Attorney David Kelly on the facts, the leaks, and the precedent. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.